So, should we go on to the nitty gritty as to why you're on the show tonight as well? This is the big one, and we've left it 52 minutes into the broadcast. This should be fun. Early Tuesday morning, the 2026 Formula One schedule was unveiled. A continuation, again, of 24 races with some notable changes. Once again, the season begins with the Australian Grand Prix, now on March the 8th, followed by the 2 races in Asia, the Chinese and Japanese Grand Prix, and 2 Middle Eastern racing, the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. That's been moved once again due to Ramadan. Now, in an effort to improve the geography flow of the races, the Canadian Grand Prix will move up a month to Memorial Day weekend on May 24th after the Miami Grand Prix. It was previously announced that the Monaco Grand Prix would move back to June 7th and getting away from the day we've all known as Motorsport Christmas. Now, with Montreal moving to its new date, it's created quite a bit of anger in the motorsports community because it's happening on the same day as the 110th Indianapolis 500. Now, unless start times are changed, the 2 races will inevitably clash at some point during the day. Now, according to motorsport.com, the Canadian Grand Prix is only set to clash once every 5 years, with the early plans for the 2027 race set for the weekend before the Indianapolis 500. Now, looking at the rest of the schedule, we recently questioned ourselves if there was room on the schedule for 2 races in Spain, and the answer to that question is yes. Barcelona will stick around for a race on June 14th, which should likely clash with the 24 Hours of Le Mans, while the new street race in Madrid will debut on September 13th. There aren't many other significant changes for next year, but as expected, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola won't return. The 2026 season will conclude on December 6th with the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Stefano Domenicali, the president CEO of Formula One, said that the 2026 will be a new era for Formula One with new regulations, cars and engines that will be 100% powered by sustainable fuel. He added that the excitement of the new Madrid street race, including the additions of Audi, Cadillac and Ford to the grid next year as well. Link to all this is on the motorsport.com article in the video description below. Graphic courtesy of Formula One. We'll bring Kobe back in as well. I think we can all take a big round of applause. Well done, you idiots. Let's move Canada just after Miami. First of all, wonderful idea. We all said that should happen. But don't lie to us. Don't grab some toilet water and tell us it's chocolate pudding. Because you've left a 3-week gap between Miami and Canada where everyone's going to have to fly home and fly back again instead of just going back to back. You're idiots. So we all know it's a lie, but I want to know your thoughts on this. And Kobe, we'll start with you. Your thoughts, please, on this entire schedule for 2026, but especially the Canadian Grand Prix taking place on the same day as the 110th Indianapolis 500. No swearing, please.
Well, I'm glad we've had some time to digest this news. I'm like, whenever there's a hot topic or explosive story like this that comes out, I really like when it happens, like say maybe 24, 48 hours ahead of time, or even at the back end of the following week, so we have a few days to digest it and to understand what it really means. Because otherwise, if this just come out today, we might get yanked off the air by YouTube for all of the words that we would be saying. But after taking some time to really dissect what's happening here with the Canadian Grand Prix taking place on the same day as the Indianapolis 500, ideally, when you first look at it, not a good thing to happen at all. But I see, although this is unlikely to happen, I see room for compromise here, where with the Indy 500, talking about the logistics of doing the double, how the Indy 500 starts, a little bit later, and it just kind of makes it hard for a driver wanting to run both the Indy 500 and Coca-Cola 600 on the same day, makes it very difficult. And we said that the Indy 500 should move the start time back on Memorial Day weekend, namely at noon Eastern time. Like it's been said, you're not, starting pre-race ceremonies at noon like that. Like when the clock strikes noon, the green flag is coming out and you are starting the 200-lap, 500-mile race. And I think in this case, I would really hope that Penske Entertainment, Roger Penske, and then Stefano Domenicali, Formula One, the FIA, who's ever in charge of all of this, scheduling stuff, I would hope that they could potentially come together, and try to figure out a compromise here to avoid a direct clash. Because with the way that the schedules are right now, with the Indy 500 green flag, assuming it doesn't rain, it'll be dropped, at 12:45 p.m. Eastern time, and then Canadian Grand Prix that's happening this weekend, it starts at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if they keep the exact same start times next year, they're going to inevitably clash, and then people are going to be extremely unhappy. You're trying to watch the Indy 500, and then Formula One is on, and then it just kind of takes away and stills the excitement of what this day is supposed to be about. So I think the greatest compromise would be Indy 500 move the start time back to noon, and maybe Formula One. If they can do this, maybe start at 4 p.m. Eastern time, because if you start Indy at noon, you get that out of the way by 3:30 ish, and then Formula One starts at 4. Those races don't go no longer than 2 hours, and then by the time six rolls around, it'll be time for the Coke 600. So then you could be able to watch the entire Indy 500, the Canadian Grand Prix of Montreal, and then the Coca-Cola 600 on Amazon Prime Video for the NASCAR Cup Series. So you could theoretically see all 3 races uninterrupted there. But we don't live in a perfect society, so I would be really shocked if Formula One and IndyCar were able to compromise here on a start time. But it was extremely disappointing to get this news. I know Will Buxton, IndyCar and Fox play-by-play broadcaster, he was saying that he obviously has a lot of connections in the F1 paddock, and said a lot of them were hoping to be able to check out the Indianapolis 500. And it would have been a great sight to see, let's say, a Max Verstappen, a Lewis Hamilton, a Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, not there to race, but just there at the Indy 500 to observe the event. I think it would be really cool to see F1 personalities on the grid, scoping things out, just seeing like how it goes. I'm sure a lot of them have wanted to get to the Indy 500, and unfortunately they're just gonna have to wait another time. But it is encouraging, from the motorsport.com reporting, suggesting that this clash is only going to happen once every 5 years. So I guess when you look at it like that, at least it's not every year, right? So that's some small positive you can take away from it. But in regards to next year, I just really hope that IndyCar can move its start time, closer to noon, if not at noon, and then Formula One maybe shift it back. Maybe they shift it back to 3 p.m. Eastern instead of 2, or maybe 4 if they can go that late. I'm not sure if they can, but I think there is some room for compromise here, where we can avoid a worst case scenario on Memorial Day weekend 2026. And in regards to the rest of the Formula One schedule, we already knew that Imola probably was not going to come back, and good to see that we're going to see 2 races in Spain with Barcelona stand on the schedule alongside Madrid as well. And that's basically all I see from the Formula One schedule next year. But obviously everyone's fired up about the Canadian Grand Prix and Indy 500 clashing. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, there's this, the Canada stuff, which we've all bit on. No one's talking about Barcelona clashing with Le Mans, are they? Well, we'll get to that in a second, because I'm going to talk about it. As Josh said, they knew exactly what they were doing with this. That massive gap after Miami, we knew this was coming. This has been trailed for a while. We knew before Christmas, wasn't it? I think we knew that Monaco was going to go back. We did talk about it on the show. We knew Monaco was going back to early June, which would switch with Canada. It's slightly different next year, as Kobe mentioned, because they would have come back from Miami. We had Imola, then Monaco. Now they've gone to Canada. Of course, now we've not got Imola next year. It's been replaced by Madrid, basically, which just slotted in there in September, and all the dates have got shuffled about a little bit. Kobe, they're living in the absolute perfect world where one rolls into the next with a little half an hour break, and then we have the next one, and then there's a little half an hour break. I mean, that would be perfect, but we don't live in, as you say, we don't live in this perfect world where everything always lines up the way we want it to. And it would have, they could have had Miami, Canada back to back, or even 2-week break, and then you could have had some of those F1 guys. They've never had the chance to go to Indy. They could have gone on the Sunday there the week after on their way back, spent a few more days in the States, Canada, whatever, gone down to Indianapolis on their way back to Europe for Monaco, gone to the race. People would say, oh, when it doesn't clash, perhaps we'll get some Formula 1 drivers in the Indy 500. That's not going to happen. They have to qualify the weekend before. That will be when Canada is. So we can scrub that thought from people's minds straight away. This is FOM, who obviously have gone the uptick in the American market, and we'll include Canada in that American market over the last 5 years in the strive to divide era, has gone skyrocketed. We've gone from 1 American Grand Prix to 3 of them. and they're in that market and they've gone, we are here. This is where we are. This is our date. And Doug Bowles and Roger Penske are probably going, hello. Yeah, once every 5 years, perhaps. We know the Indy 500 always has to go on the last Sunday of May, depending on when Memorial Day Monday is, and that's going to obviously move around with the calendar. But just the optics, that's a buzzword, isn't it? The optics of this is just shocking behaviour from Formula One. The rest of the calendar to me is absolutely fine, apart from that Barcelona one on Le Mans weekend, as Josh mentioned it. That's the first time I'd even thought about it. So please, can we have the Barcelona Grand Prix kicking off at 6 o'clock local time and have it into the dusk of
Yes.
Barcelona? That would be perfect. Le Mans finish, again, back to Kobe's perfect world. Le Mans finishes, we have an hour to do the build-up, pre-race, etc. And then get the Spanish Grand Prix at Barcelona underway, or Catalan Grand Prix, whatever it will end up being called by then, underway in the evening. You could have F2 and F3 during the day, a little bit later on, just shuffle the stuff back, through the day, and have the Grand Prix go off in a summer prime time for Europe evening time. Probably end up then going against an IndyCar race, but that's another story for when they get their calendar out. But that would be a good move for that not to clash, because that's not happened for a long time, has it? Where we've had a Grand Prix go directly against Le Mans. Go, Josh, before we throw to Mr. Owens.
I think you're fine, though, because I think some of the IndyCar drivers want to do wet next year at Le Mans. So I think we're okay.
Yeah. There's been some years where it has clashed. We've seen Scott Dixon do Le Mans plenty of times, but when he hasn't been able to, of course, he can't. So... but we'll wait to see what the IndyCar schedule goes with. Mr. Owens, your thoughts?
How important is the no cursing part to you guys? Is that right?
I don't know. Good place vibes.
I am so disgusted by Formula One. They are the most disrespectful, arrogant racing series on the planet. And this only solidifies that. God bless you guys. Kobe said everything as well as you possibly could. I wish I could be as good of a person as Kobe, but I cannot. This is absolutely pathetic. Formula One should be ashamed of themselves, but of course they're not, because they just want to take their iron fist in both of their feet and just slam it on the throats of everyone that they come in contact with. But here's the good news to all of this, at least stateside, and maybe all of North America, but certainly stateside, this will not impact a thing. You don't come in and mess with the Indianapolis 500 on Memorial Day weekend and get away with it. Indianapolis 500 had all of these many millions of people watch on Fox this year, despite a terrible broadcast. All of these millions of people watched. Last year, the Canadian Grand Prix, which, by the way, was on ABC, because it's a North American Grand Prix, it's on ABC, not ESPN or ESPN2. But on ABC last year, the Canadian Grand Prix averaged 1.8 million viewers. If these two races clash next year, as we expect, I would say the Indianapolis 500 will have over 6.5 million, maybe 7, depending on the Indiana blackout. And the Canadian Grand Prix will dip under 1.5 million. Will Formula One care? No, because they'll have all of these other millions of people watching worldwide. But I'd say they'll care a little bit, because this move was made from Formula One saying, we are bigger than IndyCar. We are bigger than everybody, and we don't care. We're going to prove it to everyone. Well, here's the problem with that. Formula One is light years bigger than IndyCar right now. It's a better ran organization than IndyCar right now. IndyCar has many problems. You guys touch on it often on this show. But guess what? Formula One is not bigger than the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indianapolis 500. And that will be proven next year in 11 months. Because this is going to turn into a disaster for Formula One in one way or another, whether that means they show up to Montreal that weekend and it has snowed, which is possible, in Montreal in late May. They might show up to a blizzard. They might show up to a monsoon. They might show up and off the grid, one car doesn't go and one car clatters into another one, and we'll have a 17-car pileup on the grid, just like the US 500 of multiple decades ago. But something will happen to make this the unmitigated disaster that it is. And Formula One deserves every single bit of it. I am so disgusted with it. Just the arrogance, the blind arrogance of this is so disgusting. It is a total turnoff to the point of, I don't care about the rest of the calendar. I won't be watching. I don't care. You don't come after the 500 without ramifications. And Formula One doesn't care about little old me and my thoughts of not watching next season. But maybe if many other people follow that, and I have a feeling they will, maybe they will start to care. But it is my opinion, as someone is coming very close to this house with a lawnmower, or I might be getting blown up by a meteor that FOM is sending. I don't know.
MBS knows where you live.
But this is a total disaster. They should be ashamed of themselves. And they'll pay one way or another. They'll pay. There will be taxes that have to be paid for making this decision. And I hope for the worst. See, I said I wish I could be as good of a person as Kobe, but I can't be.
And of course, and Adam agrees with all of us, it's not the first time Formula One and Indianapolis have had a problem in the recent past. People don't forget stuff like that. I haven't, well, you might have. I was going to say, I haven't really seen that brought up in the last 24, 36 hours, whatever. But as you say, the blind stupidity of let's go again and try and, go over the 500. And Matthew, you said, the European audience will top up what is lost by the stateside audience. I'm not sure that that's all going to be the case. There's plenty of people around the world that will tune in live for the 500 on that Sunday every single year without fail. And there's been plenty of people already saying, well, I won't be watching the Canadian Grand Prix live. Josh even said it'll be the first Grand Prix he doesn't watch live since 2013.
Well, yeah. Why? Why would you? It's the Indianapolis 500, for the sake of God. It's the Indianapolis 500. It's the greatest race in the world. And you've got the Canadian Grand Prix that will feature 0 lead changes for an hour and 40 minutes to see someone win by 37 seconds. Why would you watch that race over the 500? Oh, my God.
Yeah, my honest thought was, who am I going to ask to cover the Canadian Grand Prix so that I can go to Indy? Who's going to sacrifice himself in the JBM team? Because I've already said it. I am not wasting a month of all my notes that get printed out and written on, sitting in this chair or standing in this commentary box 8 hours for 2 weeks, shouting at every pole position lap, everything, to then go, right, that's it. I'm not going to do the race. Yeah, bye. I'm going to do Canada instead. No, I love the Indy 500. I am doing the 500. I never thought the day would come. Well, no, Mohammed. I never thought the day would come where I never thought the day would come where I would say I am not doing a Formula One race. I never thought. He's trying to scare us. He's doing the same that Dave Richards did. Look, I'm not doing it. I'm not. I'm doing Le Mans. I'm doing Le Mans. Let's talk about that for a second, shall we, as well? Does everyone hate the Triple Crown all of a sudden? Are they that scared about losing Max Verstappen? They're stopping him at every opportunity from doing it. Really? I've been around for 423 Formula One races. In that time, I have missed 5 of those races. And I haven't missed it since Malaysia 2013. Bad one to miss, I know, but town were at Wembley. So, gotta go. I vowed then never to miss another one, and I vow now that I'm not missing the 500. I can't do it. I wanted to be mad, but I'm not sure I can be with how poorly Roger and company have run the series to take over. As today, I'm not honestly choose Canada. That's how fellow bio Mohammed, please give us a break. We'll talk nicely about you. We know you're going to be the president for all eternity, just like Donald Trump. We'll talk nicely about you. Jesus Christ. Matthew, are you in LA right now or something or other? The noise coming outside your...
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about.
If we see any rubber bullets, we'll drop. I'm much more mad about the Barcelona-Le Mans clash personally. Yeah, right. Let's talk about this quickly as well, because I am aware we've got to get through stuff. That's really annoying. That's really annoying. I
hate it.
Because it's not like it is this year where we've got Canada like 5 hours later. This is a direct clash like Azerbaijan was a couple of years ago. And that's so infuriating. It's so insulting. And they're both run by the FIA. This is the FIA turning around and giving itself the middle finger.
Do you remember, Josh, a couple of years ago when the FIA had a meeting, put out something in terms of a statement where they said Formula One, Formula E, and WEC and MotoGP were bound are kind of included in this conversation as well. We will do our utmost to avoid clashes to help the fan at home and the fan going to the races. It's absolutely gone out of the window.
Well, Stefano Domenicali got greedy, and Mohammed Ben Salam is a dictator.
He's
so
greedy.
It kind of just goes to him. Right?
Yeah, I'm not really sure this is an FIA issue, but it may turn into one.
The FIA dictate the calendar. Let's not forget that as well. The FIA. Yeah, they also get a say about when their series is, including especially the World Endurance Championship. That's sort of their baby they organise, isn't it? That's sort of the only thing the WEC have and the FIA they have their hands on. Formula One management dictate the calendar for them, but WEC and the FIA work together for that one. So it's kind of a hand-in-hand situation. But look, I agree. You don't mess with Indianapolis. We should have learned this by now. The 20 years have passed, and we still haven't learned the lesson.
We will be sat there in 11 months' time. We'll all be watching the 500. Three of us here will be broadcasting.
3 of us, we call it 500.
And I'm sure the same 3 of us will have the Canadian Grand Prix on a second screen.
No.
And when
not at all, not even a consideration.
When something disastrous happens, we'll all look at each other and just laugh. Say, well, I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
Let me give you the commentary right now. It's lights out and away we go. Oh, hang on a minute, the snowplow's not going out there.
I just can't fathom how one could come to this decision. Nothing. Formula One believes that they are too big to fail right now. And there was a time where NASCAR thought that. Here it comes again. Whoever is mowing the grass is doing a tremendous job. Great timing. Of course, it's 173% humidity here. You have to do it this late. But anyway, I'm so disgusted. I'm so disgusted by the whole thing.
You're getting redder as you go along.
I know. And to the point that I just made about Formula One, they believe they're too big to fail. NASCAR went through this about 20 years ago. They had this enormous boom. And oh my goodness gracious, let's go away from North Wilkesboro and let's take a date away from Darlington. And let's go away from our roots to have more races in Southern California and the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Chicago and Kansas City and wherever else. And then guess what happened? Guess what happened? Everyone called their bluff. And then what did we have for the next 10, 15 years? We had tracks tearing down grandstands because they were no longer getting 125,000 people for races. They were getting 60 or 70,000, and they had to course correct from their mistake. This is a terrible mistake, and they'll never admit to it, but this is a terrible mistake, and history will remember it as such. By the way, to Ben's last comment, I get it. Everyone has an issue with the way IndyCar is being run right now because it's being run terribly. It's being run into the ground in many respects. Horse racing. A couple of years ago, horse racing went through just a real dark period. Horses were dying all over the place. Trainers giving their horses illegal drugs. Stables, horses dying in stables that were not well kept. As an animal lover, done with horse racing. Okay? Done with horse racing. Until something gets fixed, I am done with horse racing. Does not mean that on the first Saturday of May, I did not take in the sights, the sounds of the Kentucky Derby. Because that is one of the sport's holidays. Not horse racing holidays, sports holidays, just as Indianapolis 500 is. You don't have to be in love with what IndyCar is doing to be in love with the Indianapolis 500. I know the Indy 500 is run by IndyCar, but that is not an IndyCar day. It's a day unto itself. That's what I would just say to that.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, well, vaguely the same. The 500 has been run on that weekend, give or take the odd slight change in the calendar dates, forever, apart from during COVID. It's not moving. That is when the 500 is. And for Formula One to go, bosh, we're here for the Canadian Grand Prix. Hello? What? No.
You're not going to have 350,000 people at the Circuit Villeneuve in Montreal. You're not going to have back home again in Canada.
In Quebec.
Oh, Canada.
Don't forget, last year they couldn't get the people in on the Friday properly because they had issues.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, well, let's just say, by the way, they have repaired the commentary box, but it flooded. The whole thing flooded last year, and the commentary boxes were about as useful as...
Chocolate Fireguard.
I was going to say Danica Patrick, but I'll go with you there. But still, she's back this weekend, so I've got to get the insults in. Yeah. But yeah, if it snows, I can just imagine. Let's go up to Crofty in the commentary box. Oh, he's a snowman. It's just.
As he scrambles to put his. Let's go to Crofty and he's in the commentary box. He scrambles to put his phone on the desk because he's watching the 500.
I am praying for snow. I am praying for a foot of.
Oh my God! Hang on, sorry. I'm just going. Let's go to Martin on the grid walk. There's no one here. There's no one here. Who do I talk to?
With the John Travolta gift, but Martin Brundle doing the thing.
It is snowing down here too.
As you all know, Canada is a huge race for Formula One because all of the filming that's being done, all the actors, all the A-list go to Canada. That's where Ozzy Osbourne's been there as well. Nicholas Hoult has been there. All the filming. I think even Robert Downey Jr. was there one year as well. All the big films that get done in Canada, everyone goes to Canadian Grand Prix. It's a huge event. But all the stars also go to the Indy 500. So putting on the same day is kind of like, they can't tear themselves in two. So F1 are going to be finding that. They're not going to have the celebrities. They're not going to have the fans. They're not going to have... I would love it if the drivers didn't turn up. That'd be hilarious. But we are an hour and 20 minutes in, and we do have to go through. To be fair, Josh, you can thank the fan who threw a shoe at the track for stopping Danica Patrick when it's in NASCAR race in Canada. I see my TARDIS works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
look, she's back this weekend, and yeah.
I'm going to sit here. Let's sign off this segment, but before we do, I'm going to sit here and do this and say it's going to change before the end of the year. When we get the clarified calendar for next season for Formula One, it will be different.
It'll clash with qualifying.
But if they move it a week earlier, the Canadian Grand Prix, It's going to crash with qualifying. And we'll have 2 feet of snow because it's even earlier in the year.
Yeah. Oh God. Let's just not go. Let's just save it. I love Canada, but let's just not go. If it's once every 5 years, let's just pop it off the calendar.
Zandvoort's about to disappear from the calendar. It's its last year next year, and that's
it's a sprint.
It's a sprint. Oh, okay. Well, not yet to be confirmed. And Max Verstappen's not got long left. Lance Stroll's got not long left, and then we have to get to Canada. You see the pattern, and then this problem would go away. Anyway.
Yes. Right. I'm going to let Matthew go now and Kobe get on with his segment. Matthew, calm down.
Well, I'll try. My last word on this. This isn't going to affect the Indianapolis 500 in any way. They'll still have 350,000 people. It'll still be the best race of the year. It'll still have the tradition, the pomp, the circumstance. Indianapolis gets affected none by this. This is a travesty for a lot of racing fans who I have a feeling will choose Indy over Montreal. But anyway, thank you for having me and letting me scream. And hopefully a good night coming in Indianapolis for Pacer fans as they look to take the lead in the NBA Finals. We'll see.